you were putting all this work in and you had this valuable business, but you always felt like you were broke. They do free shipping, free deliveries. They do offers that people who are trying to make money cannot do. And they can actually kill the industry. I just couldn't wake up every day and have the enthusiasm for my brand if I would feel like a phony.
Yeah.
And I know it's old school.
Yeah.
And for a while there I'm thinking, oh, look, get with the program, Lorna, you know, this is new business. But as you said, I can see it faltering now.
Yeah. Welcome to the Make It Happen show. I'm Tim Morris, the CEO at The Entourage, and I'm so excited to bring you another fantastic interview with lots of insights you can implement into your business. Let's get into it. Lorna Jane, so good to have you on. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very, very well. Thank you. To kick us off, it's been an amazing journey for you over more than 30 years. You've gone from no stores, just teaching students, then coming up with the whole concept of activewear. And now you're at over 100 stores. You also retail through e-commerce around the world. How on earth have you made that happen?
Bloody hard work. No. You know, my brand is my life. It's all of the things that I love. I love activewear. I love working out. I love health and fitness. So, when you say 30 years, I think, oh my God, has it been that long? And everything we did in the business has been just one step at a time. Let's open a store. Let's open another store. Let's focus on e-commerce. It's just Lorna Jane, the brand, is just me living my life, doing the things that I want to do, following my interests and actually thinking, what do I want in my life, and then delivering it to the customers. So, and some days it is tough and I have to look at spreadsheets, which I'm not really good at, because we now have a legitimately big business and we're responsible for a lot of people who work for us and a lot of, we have deals with a lot of landlords, and so we have a lot more responsibility. So I have to think like a businesswoman, but it really is, and I feel really blessed to be doing what I love every day and just thinking, what am I interested in? Let me take that to my customers.
Yeah. Well, so important for the longevity, obviously, for you. I wonder how surely most business owners are aligned with their passion. What if they're not? What if they've got a business, it's almost there, but it's not quite lighting them up?
I think there's two types of businesses. I think there's people who go into business who already have their exit planned and they're going to sell. And I talk to a lot of business people, and they're the people that think that's a great business idea. I can start that and get it to 5 years or 10 years and I can make some money, then move on to my next big idea. That could be like a serial entrepreneur. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 years. This was me. For me, this is me creating a life that I love, and it became a business. It was sort of the accidental businesswoman, if you say. So I think there's two types of businesses.
Yeah.
And you're either passionate or you're not.
Yeah.
If you're passionate and then you wake up, and you think, haven't felt this for a few months or a few years and I'm sick of it, I think maybe my advice would be to revisit, why you started in the first place. Think it could be the people that you've got. Sometimes when you hire badly, it can affect, like I've been in positions sometimes where I think, I actually don't want to go into work today. And it's usually 1 or 2 people that are just not aligned with their culture that are just making it weird for me.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean they have to leave. It just means that I have to, align them.
Do you know, that's actually come up in quite a few of these conversations I've had. A lot of people, particularly when they've been in their business for a long period of time, talk about there's been periods where they just weren't happy with the culture. And ironic as that is, because it's kind of like it's your culture. But it comes up time and time again.
People think that the founders of a business are responsible for the culture, and that's not the case. Like in the beginning, you set the culture because that's who you are as people, and this is the environment you want to work in. But it's the people that work for you that are responsible for the culture.
Yeah.
And, if you have an employee who is saying, oh, I don't like the culture here, it's not right, well, you know what? You're part of that.
There's a responsibility there.
Yeah. It really is. That's why every person that you employ, especially at a high level, a leadership role, is important. They have to be aligned with how you think.
Yeah, and I think as the business gets bigger and there's more people there, it gets more to that. It's like, oh, it's us and them, or it's the employees might be going, oh, the culture's not what I think it should be, and you're like, we'll take some responsibility. And so how do you spread around that responsibility? How do you get more people to understand that they're the champions of the culture as well?
It's just hiring right. And it's not black and white. It's just a little feeling. It's a feeling in your gut that something's just a little bit off, you know. But yeah, it's definitely a joint responsibility. Yeah. And I think when your team understand that, it's instant how it can change.
Yeah. It's funny how many things there are in business, like when it's your business, that are just like, you can just kind of feel it. Like you've got this total unconscious competence in all these areas of your business, culture being one of them. You could just kind of feel it's not quite right. Likewise with opportunities. Sometimes you just can feel it's the right opportunity. Do you think that's just something that comes from like intimate knowledge of all parts of the business, or can you develop it? Can you hone into it better? What are your thoughts there?
I just feel that, I mean, this is, Lorna Jane's my legacy. It's my life passion. And, you know, people say, oh, it's just business. It's really personal, you know. So I'm just really vested. Like I feel anyone that's invested in their own business or a business they work for has a gut feeling. And I think as humans, we need to tune into that. And, you know, I have a dog. He's gorgeous, of course. But, you know, they feel everything. Everything's intuitive. Even young children, they can sense things. You know, if you're a little bit off, the baby starts to be a bit whingy. You know, so I feel like good people really tap into that. You know, if you're a leader in a business, you can feel when your team's a little bit off, and it's better to be ahead of it and search it out than it actually to explode in front of you.
And so, and how do you make the right choice more often with getting people on? Because it's one of these great paradoxes. You don't really know what someone's going to be like in the business until they're in the business. And so how do you kind of stack the cards in your favor? What are some of the strategies you use? I
mean, you tell me. I've made some really bad hires and I've made some really good ones. And, you know, sometimes you just have to, you know, go with your gut and think, you know, I like this person. There's usually two ways. Like, you know when they're wrong, but you don't really know when they're right.
Yeah, that gels with what we say all the time as well.
Yeah, that comes with time. You have to really, but you have to give them, I think it's wrong to employ someone when you're not sure if they're right. So you have to feel that they're right and hope that they're right, but it doesn't always work out.
Yeah. We say that you've got to come from a position of null hypothesis, like they're not the right person until they show they're the right person. And so the way we test that is we do lots of recruitment challenges, exercises, like particularly for senior roles. It's a very, very laborious process, and the right people lean into that and the wrong people self-select out. So that's one of the ways to kind of let someone choose that they're right. And then I agree, the only time you listen to your intuition hiring is when you feel like they might be wrong.
You know what? I think you have a much better process than me. I think I need that handbook because mine is, and like you said before, mine is all gut. Yeah. Whether I think they're the right fit, whether I like them as a person, whether I think they've got integrity, whether I think they're loyal, whether they love the lifestyle that Lorna Jane represents. Mine's just really simple. Plus, they need to be able to do the job as well.
No, we just recently hired, still to start, a new director of finance and operations. And the process for that was I assembled a whole data room of information, had all the financial information, all the stuff about our tech stack, org structures, and all the top candidates got taken through that. And some of them, their eyes were just rolling back. And some of them I never even heard back after that. I'm like, well, you're clearly not the right person. And the people that were suitable were leaning in and asking for more. And
so they self-selected, really?
Yeah.
I'm out.
And then, actually, I'd love to let's keep on the employee journey. I think it's particularly as the business gets bigger, it's more and more people. So you're hiring the right people. What about getting them set off on the right foot from the beginning?
My way of leadership is leading by example. Like, I think I have a lot of integrity. I'm very loyal. I'm hardworking, and I don't settle for second best. Like, you know, the detail is my thing. In fact, it probably holds me back sometimes. But one of the things that I do think I do really well, and I feel like I subconsciously think of myself when I'm talking with my staff or leading them, is that it's my role to actually see the potential in them before they see it, and actually then facilitate them actually moving into that potential. And I see it all the time, and you know, I'll get letters from my team at Christmas and you know, certain times of the year where they'll talk about, thank you for believing in me. But I think that's what people need. Like, so many people have so much raw talent. But they just need to learn a few little things along the way, or learn how to express them, or how to capture them in a way that actually becomes valuable to the business.
And so much more sustainable for the growth of the business as well. Because as the business is leveling up, you need people to be leveling up, and it's far better if they can be homegrown and stepping into their potential and always trying to bring in more senior, more experienced people. I'm sure that there's always the place for that. But
well, my husband always says, because he's the CEO, Bill, he always says, I just want you to leave Lorna Jane better than when you came. And I've got tens, probably about 50 letters, because I keep them all. A little bit like that, but a little bit. But of people just saying, thank you, Bill. You said you'd make me better, and I am.
You must have, a people and culture person, or an HR division, or someone responsible for the hiring and training and all the rest of it.
Yeah, we do.
When did that come in? Can you remember? Oh. And the reason I ask is I think it's an area that a growing business kind of, I think, often struggles to say, when do I allocate the resources to that? Like a lot of the larger businesses that we work with might be 50 to 60 employees. They're like, I don't quite have the bandwidth yet to have a people and culture person, but it's about them. They need it.
I wouldn't be able to recall how many people we had. I'm not that good. But I do know we've got one girl who I think from memory was probably our first HR person. And she's actually just returned to the business after having 2 children. And in between that, she's run our China operation from home.
Oh, wow.
So I would guess probably year 7 or 8.
Yep. Yeah, that kind of gels. But no, the 7th year of business is it's a really common little pattern. We call it the 7-year slump. I don't know if you went through this.
Lorna Jane's never had a slump.
Paradoxically, it's probably not the business is having a slump. It's the founder is having a bit of a slump. They hit 7 years. What we tend to see is they hit 7 years and they've been hustling, building this business just through their own entrepreneurial kind of grit and will and chutzpah. Right? But then they hit 7 years and suddenly they're like, oh my God, this thing is like taking on a life of its own, but I'm still like linked in every single part of it. Everyone needs me. Everything gets stuck with me.
But you know what? That's when we took on our partner, and don't ask me the year. Please don't ask me the year because I won't know. But that's how we felt. Yeah. And what was great about that, and I said, when we were talking earlier that it's probably something that I, wouldn't do again.
Yeah.
But I remember that feeling. So what it was that you were putting all this work in and you had this valuable business, but you always felt like you were broke. You had the worst car in the street. At the time, I think Bill and I we had a small house on the beach, but we were living in our factory. I mean, it was pretty cool. It was like a big warehouse, and it wasn't a slum by any means, but it was still living on the premises, and our friends would be like, you have this great business and you live in the warehouse, you know what I mean? So it was all this effort and you didn't feel rewarded.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's when we took on the partner, and then we took the cash out, and then we went and bought a house here and did this and paid off this loan, and it actually was a reward along the way. So I don't think it was 7 years though.
Yeah. Well, so you mentioned that you might not do that again, right? But you do need those little unlocks of achievement along the way.
Yeah.
And so do you really think you wouldn't have done it again, or would you just done it a bit differently?
Well, I'm not a woulda, coulda, shoulda person, so it happened. So we got it back. So
well, you bought it back, right?
Yeah, we did.
And so, what was the thought process behind that?
It was really an opportunity for Bill and I. Our partners were sort of settling private equity. They were settling their fund, so they really needed to get out.
Yep.
And Bill and I were in a position where we could buy it, and we'd been through trying to go through a sale because they needed to close their fund, and that's not the right time to actually think about selling part of your business. So we didn't really want to be in that position again. So we bought it back.
That's an interesting lesson, I think, for a lot of growing business owners, because quite a few of the business owners that we work with are looking at what's an opportunity for them to take some money off the table, probably not an outright exit, but something like you guys did, take on a PE partner. But then so with them, they were like, well, we've got to get out. And it was almost forcing you to get out until you decided, no, we're going to take it back. Yeah. Like that's one of the traps of going down that pathway. Is that correct?
Well, I think the thing was that there was so much interest in the business. Everyone wanted to buy it, but they wanted Bill and I to be still in it, but they wanted majority. Why would we do that?
Yeah.
Like, why would we give them 55% and then be almost beholding to them? But and we didn't need the money, so it just didn't make sense. You know, gut feeling again, like like let's just buy it back. It was never really in the plan, but.
Yeah, and are they after the majority for control? It's not, they don't just want more than 50% ownership, they want the control side?
Probably, but it's when you talk with private equity, and I guess a lot of the people that you're talking about, the businesses that are in that position, a lot of them really do want that majority.
Yeah.
And it's not that it's your business in particular, it's just that's how they do business. And I think it's just a comfort thing.
Yeah.
You know, I don't, in my personal experience, I mean, it was 60-40 with Champ, and I would never pull that. In my opinion, we were all partners, but we never had tough times. You know,
yeah, well,
so
it didn't get tested then.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a lot of private equity want majority.
Yeah.
And my advice to anyone that was doing that is, if they want majority, then give them 80%.
Yeah, and
you just
take
have
on the board,
but don't do 55 or 60. It's not. I wouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, well, you got these just not clashing, but coming together of different ideologies, right? You've got entrepreneurial founder who, in your case, very much still like just you live and breathe the business, and then you've got them who've got like fiduciary responsibility for their investors, and like it's just probably a compliance and a risk thing to have control if they can get it.
Yeah.
Because they can turn back to their investors and say, no, we control what happens in this business.
But they're paying a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like, when your business is in that position, you're talking tens of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And they're doing that on trust of these two people, like if there's also that thing, if you sell too much of your personal equity in the business, then you might not care. So there is that balance. They want you to care enough to keep working hard for them.
Yeah. Yeah. So something you said earlier when we were chatting earlier was like you were growing, you were profitable. There was a lot of interest. There was people, and I think that's probably not something that we talk about too much around like raising money or taking on a partner when everything is going really, really well. Because most people just talk about the capital raising when you're not a profitable business or it's in the red or it just needs cash to grow. Who else would look at a company, not necessarily Lorna Jane, but look at any company that's growing, profitable, good times ahead? Who else would be interested in a business like that?
It's something that I truly believe in the core of my being, because I love my brand. I think it's the second love of third maybe. Bill, my dog. Then my business. Because you have to say that, right? But
you can say dog first,
but I really love my business, and I want to be successful as a person as well. So for me to run a business that's not successful financially would be really hard. Like, I don't know how people can build a business and their balance sheet
is always in the red.
Is off. I feel like for me that would be disheartening. Like, to look at the balance sheet at the end of every month or every quarter and think, what am I doing this for?
Yeah.
Because there's always that sort of monkey on your back saying the doors could be closed tomorrow, So I find it really hard when you look at these brands, particularly because we spent quite a bit of time in the US, who are just fundraising and they're not really making any money. They're just growing their market. They're getting market share, and then they run out of money and they get more money, and then they market share. And they just put an imbalance in the marketplace because they do free shipping, free deliveries. They do offers that people who are trying to make money cannot do. And they can actually kill the industry. Like, you're seeing it in the beauty industry at the moment with Glossier. Like, they're just killing, well, they have. It's turning around, hopefully. They're killing it for people who want to have legitimate businesses.
Well, it might be one of the silver linings of a lot of capital is going to dry up over the coming years.
I think so.
And we're already seeing in the US and in Europe, a lot of those big venture-backed businesses are starting to have trouble getting the next rounds, and they're starting to have to make some emergency measures.
Well, I think the investors want a return. Like, after 3 rounds, they want a return on their money, and rightfully so.
Or a clear path to something much, much bigger, like an IPO. But again, if the markets are in chaos, that's not going to happen either.
Well, the IPOs are happening, and then they're just falling. So they're losing money anyway.
Yeah, I've spent some time in some of those big Silicon Valley venture-backed businesses, and then, in the kinds of businesses we work with now, which are very much focused on profitability and running a good business.
And how do you feel about it? Like,
I think one of the great kind of pleasures of running a business is running it well and running it so it's growing, but it's also profitable. I think it's a real measure of running a good business. I love the numbers. You said before you don't like the spreadsheets, but I do, right? I think it's how you plan effectively for a business. I think it's how you lay out your roadmap, and then it's how you measure the performance against that. And there's a bit of great sort of internal satisfaction for hitting the numbers that you lay out for me. The other thing is we're in the business of teaching business owners how to grow profitably. And so we therefore have to walk the talk and do it ourselves.
Yeah.
So we do have a bit of a, it's just the essence of our being, which is good.
I think it's important.
Yeah.
I mean, I just couldn't wake up every day and have the enthusiasm for my brand if I would feel like a phony.
Yeah.
And I know it's old school.
Yeah.
And for a while there I'm thinking, no, look, get with the program, Lorna. This is new business. But as you said, I can see it faltering now.
Yeah. I read in the paper this morning, a property investment firm down in Victoria has now gone out of business and they owe $70 million. And the guy who was the managing partner, no idea what his name was, he's been the managing partner for 4 years. And then out of the blue, suddenly it's gone down and they owe $70 million. How does that happen?
But you know what? In business, you're going to work really hard every day. Like, work hard to actually have a legitimate business that makes money.
Yeah.
Like, don't work hard and then not have anything at the end of it. I think that's one of the saddest things. So devote your life or 5 or 10 years of your life to something, and at the end of the day, there's nothing there. You're just like a hamster on a wheel.
Yeah. I can see one of the areas where this would be a challenging space to navigate would be marketplaces, like these businesses that are all about customer acquisition. Like you see all these 10-minute delivery businesses these days. There's Milk Run here in Sydney. There's a whole bunch overseas. And for them, the current thinking is land grab, right? You need to acquire as many customers as you possibly can because the winner takes all. And that requires a lot of capital.
And is that because of the competition? So if you, if you don't get that zone, someone
you don't get the zone, someone else is going to get it. And one of the ones here in Sydney just went out of business not long ago. I think it was Send because they hadn't done enough customer acquisition. And so I can see in that scenario, it's like they all buy into the winner takes all ethos. Right? So that's why they're all raising money. But surely someone could be like, well, why don't I just take an area and actually do it really, really well and make it profitable, and then one of the other guys is going to come and buy me. Or I can keep running a profitable business. I'm going to have choices.
It's because that hamster wheel is going too fast and they actually can't think laterally.
Yeah.
They're too caught up in actually trying to hit that.
So do you have a couple of philosophies on, like, what are your philosophies on running a good, profitable, stable business?
Just don't spend money you don't have. I mean, there's times, not now, but in the building of our business where we would go into overdraft, but we would make it very clear how long we were going to be in the overdraft and we would get out of it. Like I'm a creative, but there's one thing that stops me being creative, and that's worrying about money.
Yeah.
So I can't worry about money.
Yeah. Well, you make short-term decisions.
You're just too safe.
Yeah.
Like you've got to do the scary thing, and you won't do that if you're worried about paying the bills.
Yeah. We definitely had an experience with that. We talked about quite a bit. We went heavily into the vocational education space back in 2015, 2016. The whole industry collapsed. The government pulled all the funding, and we went from being a business growing at a rate of knots, really good profitability, to all of a sudden the next year, 70% of our revenue wasn't there, and it was never coming back. So we went into battle stations for a number of years. And we were running the business on the cash flow forecast week by week. Every week we would rerun the cash flow forecast just to make sure we weren't going to be running out of money. And you just can't make good decisions in that situation because it's just about kicking the can down the road. Now we're well past out the other side. You can start making some more strategic decisions. You can think a little bit more long term, but it's because there's money in the bank.
Yeah.
And you're not at risk of it all falling down the next day.
Yeah, it's a luxury, isn't it? Like you think, you can exhale, but we Bill and I both are the same. We just can't have that. I mean, financial pressure, I think, aside from health, is one of the biggest pressures you can have in your life.
Yeah.
The worst.
Just change of tack slightly. Last couple of years for you, I know there's been a lot of change in the business. How much of a focus was on retail versus e-commerce before COVID in the last couple of years, and how has that changed now? How has the business had to change, and what do you like about that change?
Okay, I love retail, and I mean, Lorna Jane has an incredibly big and close-knit community, and I think that is completely because of our stores. A combination of stores, and I think Facebook in the early days. It will be really hard for me to leave my retail behind, and I definitely think the bricks and mortar is here to stay. I mean, we went from pre-COVID around 20% online as a business. COVID hit, 90%, 99%, because we did keep a couple of stores and we did close store appointments in our stores, but 90 to 95% online. And we were heading for, in that year time period, like to try and get to 25-30% online. Coming as the stores started to reopen, we are now, was it 2 years in, 2.5 years in, 3 maybe?
Yeah,
time
maybe.
flies.
Who's counting?
Yeah, too long. We're 50%, over 50% online.
Yeah, wow.
So it's helped us achieve our goals, and we're still doing increased targets by 20% in our stores. So it's actually made us a better business. But I think actually having something, which we would never want to happen again, of course, COVID, having these things happen to you actually makes you sit up straight and re-strategize and puts an urgency to your decision making. So you either do that and become a better business, or you just go, ugh, it's over, you know. And we pulled together, the team culture came together, and I'm really proud of what we have achieved in the last few years. And we are definitely tenfold a better business than we were pre-COVID.
Well done. Maybe just touch on retail, because I agree, retail is so important. And
online opening retail, like
well, there you go.
They started, aren't
old as
they?
new
Like
again?
like traditionally, like Style Runner's opening retail.
Yeah.
There's definitely people are opening retail now.
There are great entourage success stories, Style Runner. What can retail do as we reopen back up to inject a little bit more flair and fun? And because I think it's almost ironic now that the online experience is online. You know about the customer. You've gathered their profile. You know their purchase history. You can tailor the shopping experience to someone online perhaps better than you can in store. So how does retail kind of bring some flair back to it?
Retail's not as creepy. You're not following them around and listening to their conversation. No, you know what? I just don't think there's an online customer and a bricks and mortar customer. I think it's one customer. And I think the power with retail is that, and online, is that you combine them. So we have seen such an uptake in click and collect. We have designated areas in our stores now where we have all the bags there, where they can come and get. And we do ship to me. So you'll be in store and our stylist has been putting your outfits together and there's 1 or 2 pieces that we don't have in the right color or the right size. We buy it online for you and we ship it to you.
Ah, cool.
So it's about the combination and becoming a business that's just there for your customer when she wants you and how she wants it to be. Like, it's endless options.
And have you had to change your footprint at all, or like how the stores changed?
Yeah, that's ongoing. We're opening new stores and closing stores, and it does need to be more experiential. It needs to be more of a premium experience for her now. But that's ongoing. When you've been in retail for as long as we have, you always have stores that you don't like the look of or the position's not great, but you just have to work through it and wait till the lease is up and then have a bigger plan for something close by. But it is about keeping the customers and keeping that, so if you close a store in one area, you want to make sure that she goes to the closest store. So it is still getting your footprint right and being there for the customer. 'Cause that's the most important thing. It's just, you don't have a business without customers. So every single thing you do needs to be customer focused. And it's the same with where you open your stores, where you close stores,
I wonder if there'll be a new fluidity to real estate. I wonder if the landlords will kind of figure this out as well, that you want to be looks like they're not really there.
Well, I don't know. Like, I mean, obviously I see it from my point of view. Like, why am I giving you rent when the stores were closed by the government, you know what I mean? Because some people are still chasing rent from those time periods. But I see it as a landlord, that's their income. They got to fight for it, So, I think there will need to be because I think majority of businesses, and we know, majority of business will be across online and bricks and mortar. Footprints are getting smaller. And who's to say whether I'm not talking about Style Runner in particular, but who's to say that these traditional online people are going to succeed in retail, because it's not as easy as it looks. I think it's like anything. It's constantly changing, and I think the important thing to take from it is that you have to be ready for change. During COVID, we were strategizing. We still do it now. We put a strategy together for the month, and then we break it down in the week. And if by Monday, Tuesday, we're not hitting targets or we're not getting the customer count, then we relook at the strategy. You just have to have all these levers in your business constantly and be relevant for her.
Those levers, this is probably a little bit too broad, but do you have a couple of go-to levers that you know you can pull, or what are the areas you're looking in where you're like, okay, we're off target, or we're not getting the foot traffic we want, or we're not getting the online traffic we want? And here, do you have a couple of things ready to go that you know you can pull on, or is it always strategizing?
Yeah, we do. We do. We definitely have levers, but we don't have go-to ones. It's just we probably have 30 or 40 levers that we play around with, and it just, our team is so well tuned that they just know, like, this is, it's raining, let's do this. Like it's to do with the weather, it's to do with the election, it's to do with, it's all of these things that we've learnt along the way about how our customer reacts to things. And they're not really well defined. It's very ambiguous the way we use things. And I can't tell you all of my secrets.
Want to give us one or two? No. We see that as well. Like as you get this kind of like company knowledge builds up that it is very hard to put a finger on, but it's there. And so when you're running, we run these big digital acquisition events. We've got one that's running in a week or two called the Marketing Sales Summit, and like how we put that in the market and where we promote it and how we get the registrations. Like there's a body of knowledge there that has built up over the last 2 years, because we only started running these digital events when COVID hit. But now 2 years later, we're actually very, very good at it. And we have a body of knowledge. We know what levers to pull. Although like you, to actually say, lever 1, 2, 3, 4, impossible.
It is difficult. And I also feel that you still have to have that level of fearlessness, because every situation is different and no one can predict the future. Although sometimes when I'm designing stock and people come back at me and say, you should have ordered more of that, I think, do you really think I have a crystal ball? If it hadn't so well, you'd be saying the opposite. Like, I just feel like you can look at things that have happened or been successful or unsuccessful in the past, and you can say this is the lever to pull, but you never really know. And you never know how hard to pull it or how long to do it for, or it's still, as you said, that innate knowledge about your business, but then you also just have to have that gut feeling. And then you also, it's that fearlessness of just giving it a go.
Now, something else that might have developed over time, now that you've been designing for so long,
I know.
Have there been any particular trends that have come, gone, and then come back in again? That
you don't know. You don't know.
I'm probably not.
We are trending. Well, I suppose you're not 12, but we are trending on TikTok. There is a pant that I designed. I'm not kidding. Like, it was probably, it was in the 90s.
Yeah.
It's called the Flashdance pant, and it is majorly trending on TikTok. Like, every mother is ringing me and telling me that their 12 to 14-year-old daughter wants these.
There you go.
Look it up. Look up Flashdance on TikTok.
I will do. And the mums are probably like, I want a set of those. I had one of them years ago.
Apparently they're stealing their mothers.
There you go.
Because we've never stopped making them, though. We've never stopped making them. But people wear them as uniforms. They're like a cargo sort of low. I think it's a Britney Spears. She's brought them back.
Yeah, nice. You'll be like the watch industry soon. They just all just do re-releases from their back catalogue.
Well, you get to a point where you are like that. Like, we've rejigged some old logos, you know, because what's old is new again. You know? But the Flashdance is unbelievable. We just can't. I think we're on our 6th or 7th shipment of thousands of them. It's unbelievable.
I've resisted TikTok to this point, but now I'm just going to have to check it out.
Yeah, I don't personally do TikTok myself, but my team do.
There we go. Lorna Jane, I've got a couple more questions here that neither of us have seen.
He says, lifting up his folder that he's been hiding from me.
There we go. Now, Anna puts these together. They're always really good questions.
Anna.
We call it Make It Happen in a Minute. That's a minute per question, not minute for all.
Okay.
So we go through in reasonably rapid succession. You ready to go?
Yep.
Fantastic. Question number 1. What's your favourite recipe from Nourish, the Fit Woman's Cookbook that you published last year?
Favourite. I mean, there's a lot of favourites, but I think the one I use the most is the breakfast smoothie.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
What's in it, roughly?
I'm not telling you. You got to get the rest. You got to get the book.
Okay, great. I'll look it up. We'll make it tomorrow. Do we already have the book? Probably. I'm sure we've got one out there. Question number 2. What's one thing you think all retail businesses need to be doing within the next 5 years?
Listening to their customer.
Yeah.
Being relevant.
And how does, just digging that a little bit, like how does a retail business do that? Is it like just in store, or how do they get more sort of customer
I think
insight.
digital and retail is so closely linked with each other that you need to have your digital and your retail teams working closely together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's listening to your customer, being relevant.
Great.
Never stop listening to your customer.
Question number 3. What's one way that practicing active living can help any entrepreneur improve their business and personal life?
Get up every day, move, nourish, believe. Move your body, eat
Yep.
good food, and believe in yourself.
Yep. Even when you're feeling like those are the 3 things you don't want to be doing, just get there and do
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
Yep.
Because I'm a human too. Like people think, oh, it must be easy for her. She's been doing this all her life. But I wake up and I don't want to do it either, but just do it.
Yeah,
As,
well, it's kind of like...
as
particularly-
another brand said.
like movement, particularly for me, like just moving, doing something. I surf a lot. I used to run a lot. I now probably do more walking and sort of like lower impact stuff. But just like movement particularly breeds positivity for me. Just getting out, clearing your head, doing something without any technology around.
But just the point that you're actually doing what's hard. Like you don't want to do it, but you actually get up and do it. You feel good about yourself.
Yep.
It's a really great way to start the day.
Particularly as it's getting into winter now, going out in the surf's a little bit more difficult, but you get more reward from it. Question number 4. What's one place in the world that you haven't opened a Lorna Jane store that you would like to open one in?
The moon. Who knows? Honestly, I'll go up with Richard.
There wouldn't be too many customers up there, though.
I know, but it could be.
In a couple of years or a few. Fantastic. And question number 5. If a business owner wants to future-proof their growing business, what is the one thing they need to do to make it happen?
Surround yourself with good people.
Yeah. That's it. It's a really common theme from our discussion today, the people side of business. So
And we
important.
make it sound easy, but it's not.
No.
It's constant.
Yeah.
And especially in the job market at the moment because people are moving a lot, But yeah, good people, loyal people, people who believe in your vision.
Yeah. Well, maybe if I can add an extra question in just around this, well, because it has been so,
Yeah.
it is so
Okay.
important getting the right people on, particularly in markets like now. What do you think a couple of the key ingredients of attracting really good people? Like, how is it? Is it vision? Is it purpose? Is it more than that?
I think the recruitment industry right now is going through a phase where they feel like you have to offer all these things to get people to become, come on board in your business. And I agree with that. Like the world is changing, but for me personally, it's about getting people who believe in what you're doing. Like the people that I love to interview are the people that say, I've always wanted to work for your brand. I love what you're doing. Like when I started studying, I knew I was going to work for you. I drive past your building and I've known for 2 years that I'm going to work in that building and I'm going to, work for that company and I'm going to inspire women. And that's what I look for.
Awesome.
People who really, if I wasn't doing it, they might be doing it themselves. That's what I look for.
You definitely want to get them in the house, not
Exactly.
outside the house. Fantastic. Lorna Jane Clarkson, awesome to talk with you as always. Thank you very much and best of luck getting that store on the moon.
Okay, thank you. See you there.
Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you learned something in the episode that you can apply to your business straight away. To keep learning with us, make sure you subscribe and also hit the bell icon so you're notified of new episodes when they're released. You can also follow us on @TheEntourageOfficial on all the social media platforms. So thank you, and I can't wait to see you in the next episode.